Farage was a surprise guest on the US campaign trail in Arizona this week.
Yes, taking to the stage in front of a crowd of voters, the Brexit Party leader hailed Trump as a vote for decency.
Good morning to you, Nigel. I think you've been called many things in the past. I'm not sure you'd ever been called the King of Europe. How did you feel when he introduced you like that?
It was a bit of a surprise, I must say. Two things to say. Number one, that Donald Trump is a friend, and I've stuck loyally by him as well. So he's always very generous to his friends. And secondly, this guy is a big Eurosceptic, a believer in Brexit. And, I think what Donald Trump sees is a European Union in which, from north to south to east to west, people are saying, why are we being governed by Brussels? So he sees me, I suppose, as a forerunner for the argument that a Europe of nation states is the way forward, not a Europe governed by the European Commission.
So you've always bonded over that particular line of political thinking. That's been something that has brought you together and a shared interest. I wonder how this sort of develops now, though, because clearly bringing you out at a rally at such a crucial time for him in his political career that's quite an accolade for you personally as well, to be there, to be able to support him. How did the invite come about?
I came to America to cover the election. I was sponsored by the Daily Telegraph to come out, to follow the campaign, to write some colour pieces on what I was seeing on the road. So that's why I was out there in Arizona. I didn't for a moment expect the president to call me up onto the stage. He did. And so I made the point that for 4 years we have had continual hoaxes. The idea that somehow Russia was helping his campaign, just as we had in Britain with the lies that Russia funded the Brexit campaign, an impeachment process that he was put through with, frankly, no good reason, a media here, a mainstream media here that dislikes him wall to wall, and a social media here that is not even covering the story about Joe Biden, his son, his brothers, the money they made during his period as vice president. So, the deck has been stacked against this president. He's had 4 years of unrelenting pressure. And when I said he's the most resilient and bravest person I know, I really meant it.
Yeah, because that was quite a statement to say, wasn't it? The bravest person that you know. And
Yeah.
why did you say that? Because there are a lot of people who are thinking, well, hold on, when you look at the number of people you come across, when you talk about how brave he is, there are a lot more people that I suspect would be put ahead of President Trump.
I tell you what it's like to live under relentless pressure, relentless media pressure, relentless leaks, relentlessly people within US government administration who've been against him from day one. For example, Mr. Sarkozy became president of France, a number of years ago with a big promise. He'd change the union laws, he'd change France, he'd modernise it. He was called the modern-day Margaret Thatcher. Within 2 months, the establishment protested against him. Sarkozy gave up and became a normal French president. And it happens all over the world. At election time, people are made promises by leaders that want your votes. They never, ever carry them out. What Trump has done is made the American people a series of promises, and he has carried those out.
So the fact that
and that is why I use the word decency.
The fact that he sticks to his guns no matter what.
Absolutely.
You were full of glowing praise for him.
Yeah.
Do you concede that he does have flaws at the same time? When you look at, for example, what he said about coronavirus and talking about injecting a disinfectant and hitting the body with a bright light and actually being proud of the fact that they've got so many coronavirus cases, he sees it as a badge of honour. Do you also concede that he does have his flaws?
Donald Trump, he's a New Yorker, he's a non-politician, he's utterly un-PC. He sometimes says things and tweets things that those of us that are his biggest supporters find awkward. Yes, that's true. That's his style. But my point is, in a democracy, if you promise people things and you carry them out, that brings back faith, trust and belief in the democratic process. And the other point I was making was this. They're not just voting here next Tuesday for who leads America, vital though that is. They're voting for who is the leader of the Western world. And I ask myself, what other leader has the guts and courage to stand up to communist China? What other leader has the guts and courage to point out that Antifa and Black Lives Matter are actually movements not for racial equality, but for Marxism and the overthrow of our entire capitalist system. And Trump has guts, Trump has courage. And I think, you know, a victory for Trump isn't just good for America, it's good for the UK too, because he's the first president in 30 years who genuinely likes the UK.
Nigel, what a lot of his critics will say is that actually Donald Trump is only interested in what is good for Donald Trump, and he is a narcissist, and it's all about advancing his own career, it's about advancing his own wealth, his own well-being. You're talking about leadership and about the fact he stuck to his guns. Well, when it comes to public health, we can see there is an absolute calamity happening in America with coronavirus. You know, there is 89,000 cases, the highest rise in a single day. They've got 20% of the global deaths from coronavirus are happening in America. There's 4% of the world's population in America. It's vastly disproportionate, and his leadership in this has been very, very different and very poor in many ways. I mean, it's interesting for us to watch because the rules and regulations we're under here, and you were at a convention, you were at one of his rallies where there was very few people wearing face masks, there's lots of people on top of each other. There's an explosion in cases in America at the moment. Were you concerned for those people, the fact that coronavirus is transferred so quickly and so vehemently, and yet all these people were together in that space?
Look, you know, there's an explosion of cases in Belgium, in Spain, in France, and in parts of the UK.
But we're not talking.
But
specifically at the moment, Nigel Farage. Specifically at the moment, we're talking about Donald Trump and we're talking about America. There are situations in all those other countries. You're absolutely right. But at the moment, he's trying to run a political campaign to be re-elected for 4 more years on the back of his leadership. We're seeing signs of his leadership, which seems to be very flippant towards the direction of how COVID should be treated.
Well, at least he knows what the rules are in America, unlike Boris Johnson, who's brought in so much complexity and so many U-turns that he himself can't explain what the rules are in different parts of the UK. Look, I mean, the truth is this. Joe Biden says there is a long, dark winter coming up. America has to effectively lock down. Trump is saying if we do that, the cure is worse than the disease. So it is, you know, a message from Trump of optimism, and you may well say that it's unrealistic. With Biden, it's a message of pessimism. And, you know, just for your viewers this morning, I mean, here we are on the verge of London locking down. Let's just suppose that no vaccine comes for 12 months or 18 months. If we go on locking down, we will find the number of people undiagnosed with cancer, with heart disease, the sheer amount of depression and suicide, the bankruptcy, the family breakup, the abuse of children, of women. We are finding ourselves now in a position where we have a choice.
Well, there are serious consequences either way, aren't there?
With this disease?
Because if we don't lock down, the risk is that the NHS could be overwhelmed. But, you know, look, we want to sort of focus on why you were there and what you were doing. And when you look at President Trump's chances and you look at Biden and the results that he's got in the polls so far, we know that a significant number of American voters have already cast their vote. Do you think that Donald Trump can still do it? Because the numbers don't look like they're in his favour at the moment.
Do you know what I saw in Arizona, and I'm off today to Michigan, what I saw was a massive enthusiasm for Trump, for the values that he stands for, and I met many people at that rally who had not voted for him back in 2016, but are with him here in 2020. The opinion polls got Brexit wrong. The opinion polls got Trump wrong in 2016. My belief is that this is absolutely neck and neck. But what I see with 4 campaigning days to go is a Biden campaign where he's now in hiding because he won't answer any press questions about his son and the vast amounts of money his son made whilst he was vice president. And I'm making no allegations here, but I'm saying questions should be asked. And Trump is full of energy, full of enthusiasm, doing rallies all over the country. The momentum is with Trump, and yes, I still think he can win. I think the polls are wrong.
You say full of enthusiasm. I mean, obviously, he hasn't been well, has he, recently? Did you get to have a chat to him? I mean, I know that you know him. Did you see signs of him having had coronavirus? Yeah. How is he feeling? How confident is he?
I've never seen him look as fit and enthusiastic as he is today. In fact, there's more energy in Trump than there was 4 years ago. You know, he is a huge campaigner. He is the greatest showman we've ever seen in Western world politics, and I guess he learned all of that doing reality TV. No, he is strong. He is fit. He's in a very good position. He had coronavirus. He got over it remarkably quickly. And there's a story there, isn't there? That you can look at the number of cases, you can look at the number of hospitalizations, look at the number of deaths. They're not going up anything like they were 7 months ago. And that's because we're finding medically better ways of treating this. His argument is, we must not lock down. We must not go bankrupt. The cure right now could be worse than the disease. And I tell you something, there are many in the UK thinking exactly the same way today.
Well, talking about the UK, I mean, I know you've been given a national interest exemption from the US travel ban to be able to be there. What's going to happen when you come back? Will you be quarantining?
No,
No,
that is not true. The national interest exemption I got was when I came to Tulsa a few months ago. I have come here on a journalistic visa, sponsored by the Daily Telegraph,
right,
just like any other journalist.
So you'll have to quarantine
when you
come back?
Yes, I will have to do that, absolutely.
Nigel Farage, can I just ask, obviously you're following the campaign, you're at these big rallies. Are the press getting tested? Are they trying to control the spread of the virus there, or is it sort of once you've got your pass, you can go in and you don't have to have any sort of medical restrictions or any medical pass to say you are clear of coronavirus?
When I went to Tulsa, I was with the presidential campaign team, and all of us were COVID tested on the way in to the venue. So, you know, to get near to the president, the main team, you have to be tested. Look, if you're in the crowd, and let's be honest, a lot of people were not wearing face masks. They were packed in quite close together. There are, of course, I accept the point, there are some risks with what this campaign is doing. But the message is, this may not be a very nice virus, but we have to get on with the rest of our lives. And I must say, that's where I'm at right now, too.
And you feel that's a risk worth taking, then?
I think the other risk is we're going to have more people die because we empty our hospitals, we don't diagnose people. I mean, lung cancer diagnoses are down 75%. I think we've got to say to ourselves, if you are vulnerable, then of course shield yourself. The rest of us, with good hand washing, with a sensible regime, we've got to get on with the rest of our lives. Otherwise, goodness knows where we're going to be in 6 months' time. I just don't believe that a vaccine is that close at hand. So what is our choice? Lock down, go bankrupt, give our grandchildren debts they'll never be able to pay off, or do we have to just learn to live with this despite the risks?
Just before we let you go, you're staying at the Trump Hotel there in Washington. I mean, just wondered, have you got the presidential suite? Have you got a decent room there? You're being well looked after?
I'm being very well looked after. Washington, D.C. is about as empty as London is. There's no one here because anyone that works for government hasn't gone back to work. But what about the millions of people in America, in Britain, that are self-employed, running their own businesses? A few more months of lockdown and they're all going to go bust. We can't let that happen.